So in this video now, I just want to present you with a very, very simple model. Now that you understand and appreciate the Johari window. This model is called current state versus ideal state, right? And this is kind of based upon the notion that none of us are really ever completely content with where we're at, all right? Now, this is going to be true. If it wasn't true, then there's no point in you taking this course because you're never going to get any clients. But the fact of the matter is, because most people in the world aren't content with where they're at, they have problems when they get stuck. When they have a goal, they have an idea, a vision for who they could become or what they could go on to achieve, but just don't know how to get there, all right? So this brings about the idea of current state versus ideal state. Now, our current state is an interesting one. It's where we're at today. It's the real. Most people live life in a state of comparison, and I think I mentioned this back at the end of section 1 of the course. So here we'll just expand upon this just a little bit. Most people compare where they're at today in their current state to their ideal, i.e. where they want to be. And that's what the ideal state is. It's a difference between self-esteem and self-concept, right? Let me unpack this just a little bit. If I was to ask you what self-esteem is, well, our self-esteem is just simply how we feel about ourselves. It's how we relate to ourselves. It's how we perceive ourselves. It's the assumptions that we make upon ourselves. It's how we judge ourselves. If we see ourselves accurately and clearly, we're going to be of high self-esteem. We're going to be living relatively emotionally balanced lives. But if we have assumed the worst, if we have catastrophized, if we have all sorts of unhealthy, unhelpful cognitive biases going on in our life, then our self-esteem might be a little bit ropey, a little bit shaky. And what I'm saying here is that sometimes it's our self-esteem that can act as kind of like a boulder tied around our waist that just kind of keeps us tied and weighed to the past. It's kind of like the elephant story that I shared earlier on, you know, when the elephant has that rope tied around its neck, attached to a picket in the ground. Some people in the same way become attached and weighed down by their personal history. Some people define themselves by their past, by the experiences that they've had. Some people define themselves by who they were yesterday. You know, I screwed up when I was young. I developed a criminal record. I was in an abusive relationship. I was perhaps violent. I really messed up. Perhaps I failed loads of exams. Perhaps I've done this, I've done that, I've done the next thing. And many people base their self-esteem upon their past history, upon how they previously, at an earlier stage of their development, perceived themselves to be. Some people base their self-esteem upon who they think they are. And we know by now, hopefully, that who we think we are isn't always who we actually are. All right? The process of growing in life is about growing up and out of the limiting beliefs that we developed about ourselves and our capabilities back when we were young. So how we feel about ourselves underpins our self-esteem. And how we feel about ourselves and our level of self-esteem determines the level of gratification that we want and feel that we need in our lives. All right, so let's unpack this idea just a little bit. I want you to get this. So if you think about the pursuit of happiness, is the pursuit of happiness a healthy pursuit or an unhealthy pursuit? Well, if you've never known anything better, there's a pretty good chance you're saying it's a healthy pursuit. There's nothing wrong with the pursuit of happiness. Well, what is happiness? It's gratification, isn't it? I mean, if I go to the movies, it makes me feel happy. Sometimes on a Friday night, I'll go for a few beers and it makes me feel happy. Or does it make me feel happy? It perhaps makes me feel a little bit lightheaded, or in fact, lightheaded in actuality. What I'm saying here is that if our self-esteem is low, then we need more gratification. So the lower our self-esteem, the more and the greater amounts of gratification that we need. Why? Because when our self-esteem is low, our priority is to raise our esteem. When we feel bad, we want to do anything to make ourselves feel good. And this is sometimes what ensnares and traps people and keeps them kind of going around in circles for forever. Let's look at this really practically, right? I'm going to change the colour of my pen here to hopefully illustrate this point. So I'm going to go blue now. Right, say for example, a person has had an abusive history. Now I'm going to talk about Chris just for a second. I shared the story of Chris in that last section of the course. Chris had quite a traumatic upbringing, all right, without going into all the details. For confidentiality purposes, parental issues, I shall say no more. Now, one of the last conversations I had with Chris was one where he was actually blaming his parents. He said, my parents have a lot to answer for. I am the way that I am because of how my parents raised me. All right. So he defined himself by his past history, and because he'd never taken responsibility for his own life, he was still blaming parents, society, God, his teachers, all this kind of thing. So Chris would drink a lot of alcohol and take a lot of drugs. Why? To feel better. Now, this is a fascinating idea because a lot of people say CBT can be used to aid people who are of addictive mindsets, who have addictive personalities, addictive habits, so on and so forth. And it really can, right? Totally can. Chris would have said that he was addicted to alcohol and heroin, right, or methadone as well. But what I understood was that Chris wasn't addicted to those things. He was just addicted to the way in which those things made him feel. And this is a big idea. Alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, winning, adrenaline junkies, business types. Those people where enough money is just not enough money? What is it that people get addicted to? Now, coming from a background in sales, I'll be honest with you, right? When I was in sales, I absolutely thrived in sales. Why? I loved it. Because every day I would communicate, I would tell stories, I would do my thing, and I would sell products. And every time I sold a product, it was kind of like a personal validation of me, especially back then when I was not as confident and grounded in myself as what I am today. So back then, I took every success as kind of like a tick box exercise of real validation of me. I became addicted to wins. Every time I got that sale, that was it. Tick box. As gratification. That became a gratification for me in the same way that another drink becomes a form of gratification for an alcoholic, or the same way that another £1,000 on the roulette table becomes a gratifying act for the gambling addict, or another one-night stand for the sex addict, or the high-flying business person who just needs that other business deal, that next business deal, kind of like when enough's never enough. All right, we're talking about gratifying behavior here that all serves to compensate for low self-esteem. All right, look at where this approach to life actually leads people. Right, this is big stuff, my friend. It really is. When a person is committed to this pursuit of happiness, I want to feel happy, I want to feel happy, I want to feel happy here in the present, in my current state. Why does a person want to feel happy? Because they fundamentally don't feel happy. Where is it that people feel happy or don't feel happy? It's today. It's right now, in the current, in the present, today. And when people become addicted to happiness, it just leads them round and round and round and round and round and round in circles. And what does this come at the cost of? It comes at the cost of them actually moving forward and progressing in life. Have you ever heard the saying that a person without a meaningful vision will perish? Well, what is perishing? Perishing is just simply going round and round in circles where we feel like we're stuck in a rut, going round, existing on that perpetuating hamster wheel. I'm sure you can relate. Most people can in some way. If you can't, I guarantee your clients will. All right? So, how do we break out of this? Well, most people, in fact, many clients will come to you because of self-esteem issues. But what we need to understand is that the only way that a person is going to overcome their self-esteem issues is when they feel like they're actually starting to move forward and progress in life. And guess what gratifying behavior does? It just simply appeases short-term need, right? Doesn't resolve any problem. Gratification, that next drink, that next gamble, that next win, that next success, that next happiness sensation. It's kind of like a sticky plaster over an infected wound. I'm sharing with you some big life principles here, my friend. All right. So how do we surpass this? How do we overcome this? How do we move beyond this state of going nowhereness? By establishing what our self-concept is, who we want to become. We've got to step into this unknown. We've got to go where no man and no woman has gone before in our life anyway. We've got to establish what our goals are, what we actually want. We need to get a vision for who we can become and what we can go on to accomplish or achieve. We need to get a vision for a future point in our life where we are greater than how we are today. Self-concept is about who we can become. It's about who we ought to be, who we should be, who we really want to be, who we know that deep down inside we need to be. All right, this is crucial, but this gives us a basis for goal setting. Remember, CBT is a goal-orientated and solution-focused form of therapy, of helping, of coaching. However you apply this is entirely up to you. Just get the principle. All right. So these are the questions that we need to ask, not how can I feel happy? How can I feel better about me? How can I get another quick fix? And we want to be strongly encouraging our clients to get out of this limited way of thinking and into something more grounded, more substantial, more sustainable for them moving forward. What's our vision? What do we see? What do we want? What do we want to accomplish? What do we want to build? Who could you be? Who should you be? Who do you want to be? How is it you intend on growing and maturing and developing and becoming better? What sort of value do you want to give back in this world of ours? How do you want to contribute? How do you want to not leave this world in the same way that you first came into it? Now, this might seem and sound like one of these motivational, inspirational videos, but seriously, how is it you seriously think you're ever going to encourage a client to start taking action steps or start changing anything about their life unless they have a more compelling vision for their future than just more happiness or more instant gratification? We've got to understand this stuff. So my friend, relate the model to yourself, right? Where are you at right now? What's holding you back in life? Why aren't you where you want to be? What's your self-concept? What's your ideal state? Close your eyes. Get that picture. Who do you see yourself becoming? What do you want? All right. Why are you taking this course right now? What's the best case scenario? Can you picture yourself hosting live events, creating training courses like this, working with groups of people, young people, positively influencing, positively making a difference because you're more than capable of doing this? And that's what the CBT framework is here for. Not just to be getting lectured out in universities and higher educational establishments, but actually to be getting built into the context of people's lives. It's the core reasons why this framework of thinking was initially created by Aaron Beck and Albert Ellis. Not just to be a tick box accreditation exercise in universities, but to be practically applied. So these are some big principles that we really want to be building into our lives. Spend 5 to 10 minutes just reflecting upon this right now. I mean, are you at where you want to be in life? And if so, why? If not, why not? All right, what do you perceive as being that thing that's holding you back? What's the boulder around your weight? Are you still waiting for, some sort of feeling to come along? Are you waiting to feel like you're enough or confident enough or that you know enough or that you understand enough before actually stepping out and becoming that person that you want to be? Or would it be okay just to start being this person today? Life's a progressive journey, isn't it? But this is the idea, all right? Current state to ideal state. I'm talking to you here. I want you to understand this because once you understand this, then in turn you're going to better understand the direction that you want to be guiding your future clients. Focus on direction moving forward as you start working and serving people as a CBT practitioner.